Last week we left off probably the middle of page 66. Was it?
Second paragraph.
Second paragraph. But before I get to the second paragraph, I'm going to start from the top of the page again. Because it talks about Jesus, and was he a savior? Did he come to really help mankind overcome? Was he actually the savior of man? Did his death on the cross wash away every sin that has been committed before or since? The answer to these questions is both yes and no. The only way to clear up the confusion is to remove the veil of judgment that is obscuring true vision. In the little side box, judgment, as it's used here, is evaluating something based on a system of duality, i.e., good versus evil. That which precludes an outcome. And I put on the board life and death. And at the beginning of the book, we've talked over and over again about the fact that we have ultimately this choice that we're faced with moment by moment by moment in every day of our existence. We can experience life, or we can experience death. Life is eternal and death is temporary. Life is eternal and death is temporary. What we think in terms of death, many times, we think of the body, and it's a very, very unfortunate way of perceiving things that the world has adopted. We think of death when the body's decayed, it's no longer walking and talking. But in ultimate reality, death is living without awareness. That's death. And there are degrees of it, of course. There is no degree of life. If you're alive, you're aware and you're awake. If you're not aware of creation and aware of the universal oneness and aware of this present moment, then you're somewhere within the death experience. That's the journey. That's the journey that many people are on in this dimension. Not only in this dimension, but other dimensions beyond this dimension. However, there is a state or a level that you can go and come back to life. Anyway, that being said, here is the foundation for true salvation. The only thing that stands in the way is the veil of ignorance. The veil of ignorance, of course, would be this on this side. This is the human ego, perceptual. Well, I don't know if that's exactly spelled right, but anyway, the perceptual world. T. T? Here?
No.
Put a T. Okay. Our perceptual world. In other words, we experience something, we look at it, we give it a value relative to our belief system. We're all familiar with that. We're good at it. We all know how to be human. We all know how to use our ego judgmental minds and perceive things. We're not too familiar with just experiencing life. We don't really practice that too often, at least most in the world. Some do. Some have learned to quiet the mind, be still and know. Some. Confusion over this point has led to teaching dogma as opposed to truth. Jesus did not die for your sins so that you could live in denial and be absolved of the responsibility for your own salvation. Rather, he came here to become the way shower to truth in life. The real truth Jesus spoke of was of personal responsibility. This is what most people in this world reject and really don't want to hear. It's especially those who have adopted the belief that all I have to do is accept Jesus, I'm absolved from anything I do, say, or think. And I can just do whatever I want to do, say, and think. Unfortunately for those people, if they are limiting themselves and looking at things on this side of the equation, they will experience a consequence for every action. Cause and effect. Laws of karma belong to this side. Whether you're in this dimension or any dimension within time and space, you will give account of your thoughts. We all will. When you come on this side, they're irrelevant. You've moved outside. I remember when I first moved to Florida, one of the things I used to hear when I got here was, I don't care how you did it up north, this is how we do it here. Well, it's true. When in the world, when in Rome, you do as the Romans do. When in this world of time and space, if you want to play as a human being, you're going to be dealing with the laws that exist on this dimension of time and space. If you move to what Christ was teaching, you're in the world but not of the world, you can be here and be absolved from the law, so to speak. That's why Paul talked in the Bible, he says, by the law, I am free of the law. It's irrelevant to me. Until he died over and over and over again. He also said this, I die on a daily basis. When he was awake, when he was alive, in that moment, he says, by the law, I'm free of the law. All the garbage and all of the stuff, the residual that I was dragging along with me, is no longer a part of my experience in the awakened state. Go back to sleep, it never went anywhere. It's still there. Because we, and we alone, hold it. No one can hold our stuff for us. I mean, it doesn't matter how everyone in this world looks at me. They can call me the madman, that's okay. Doesn't matter. What matters is, how do I see me? How am I living? Is their judgment going to affect my being? If it is, they got me. They got me. And that's what Christ meant when he said, don't fear the man who can kill the body, but fear the man who can kill the body and leave you in hell. That's hell. Hell is the death experience. Hell is going to be a multitude of things. It's going to be whatever someone is looking at. It's going to be relative to the individual. Just as what they describe heaven is a relative thing. This is what Jesus meant when he said, this heaven shall pass away, the one above it shall pass away, and so on and so on and so on. He was talking about, as you are looking at things from a linear perception, from a perceptual view, then that perception will be true for you as long as you hold it and give it validity. Let go of it, it's no longer applicable. Most of the time what happens is we exchange one perception for another perception for another, so on and so on and so on and so on. Until we wake up completely and let it all go. When you let it all go, guess what? You're not restricted and defined by it any longer, so the energies are no longer there for you. In terms of Christianity, this would be grace. Washing away, gone. Doesn't exist. Christ said this, I give my life freely. I lay down my life freely. No man takes it from me. I lay it down. He's talking about his ego now. He wasn't talking about when he's nailed to the cross. He's talking about walking and talking in a world. He came in with an ego-thinking mind, a human mind, and now he was going above that human mind and living on a conscious level. I'm in the world, I'm not of the world. You guys are of the world, I'm not. That's what he's saying. I laid down my life. He also said this, I could pick it up again at any moment. This is the commandment given me of the Father. Who amongst us is not capable of forsaking our human life one moment, and then the very next moment picking it up again? and putting it down and picking it up over and over and over and over again. We all do this. It's part of the system that God created. It's a choice. Remember this, you, I, we all have a choice. And we, individually, are responsible for us. I'm not responsible for anyone else, but I am responsible for me. You're not responsible for anyone else, you're responsible for you. But as I do, the greatest gift, it talks about this, the greatest gift that any of us can do for our fellow human is to lay down our life. Now, I'm not talking suicide, don't get me wrong. Somebody already accused me of being another David Koresh. I'm not here to tell anybody take a swig of Kool-Aid. What I'm saying is this. Laying down your life means to forsake your attachment to your belief systems and seeing yourself as a human and living as a spiritually awakened individual. Means everyone in the world now is your equal. Everyone's on an equal playing field. Everyone is equal to your mother, your father, your husband, your wife, and your children. No one is special. Hate to break that, but nobody's special.
And then everyone is.
Huh?
At the same time,
everyone is special. If we're going to look at
therefore nobody is.
Therefore no one is. If you elevate everyone to the same stature, we can use the word special. When I say special, I mean no one is above anyone else. That's the special. And this is unfortunate. I really wish we could communicate without verbiage, because many times I may use words and I'm not 100% using the proper language to convey this understanding, but I haven't been educated to come up with that kind of a knowledge of the human language, which I don't think anyone in this world, I don't think the words exist for us to truly communicate this to everyone and everyone hear the same thing. So that's great when someone like Jerry will come along and help explain. And if you hear anything that you wish to talk about, any verbiage that is not 100% clear, let's bring it up. Let's talk about it. Let's clarify it. Because I don't want to get through this. We've only been doing this about 43 weeks. I don't want to get through this and then at the end say, "Oops, we should have talked about this. We're confused." No, let's address the confusion. If there's anything that comes up, that'd be great. As a matter of fact, confusion over this point has led to the teaching of dogma as opposed to truth. Jesus did not die for your sins so that you could live in denial and be absolved of the responsibility for your own salvation. Rather, he came here to teach, to become the way shower to truth in life. The real truth Jesus spoke of, was one of personal responsibility. Each one of us is responsible for our own experience. And we've talked in here many, many times about the difference between linear time and the now moment. In the now moment, this is something else that we really, really have to look at. If we wish to experience the fullness of creation, you have to come to realize that in the now moment, you don't have to wait to evolve. You don't have to wait another lifetime or 10 lifetimes or a millennium from now. Now is now. Could have been, we were sitting in this room 2,000 years ago, and I would say, now is now. They asked Jesus about the end times, and he said, you know what? Now. Everything is now. It's always now. Whether we talk a million years from now, now is now. Now transcends linear time. Wow. Now transcends linear time. Einstein got it, a glimmer of this, and Einstein said the past, the present, and the future is nothing but a persistent delusion of consciousness. And I know we've talked about this, infinity. The past, the present, and the future exist within the fullness of creation, and we happen to be on a timeline. You're only limited to experiencing on that timeline as long as you believe that you're limited to that timeline. Wake up. Doesn't matter whether that timeline exists or doesn't exist for somebody. They belong there if they choose that. You don't necessarily belong there if you don't choose that. You're free of it. It's not a limitation that you... The Matrix, the movie The Matrix, I thought was one of the most spiritual movies I've ever seen. Morpheus said something to Neo. He said, some rules must be followed. Some rules can be bent and others can be broken. This rule, linear time, the belief in linear time can be broken. Can be. Believe in it, you're not going anywhere. Believe it is your reality of experience within an infinite matrix that will go on indefinitely till you let it go. Because no one and nothing in creation holds any control over you. Unless you're given the power. Unless you want to please somebody. You want to live for them. You live for someone else, you give them the power. You still made the choice. You still made the choice. You still were in charge. Someone can ask you to do something, you can always say no. Anyway, as a Christian, I was taught that to think for myself first was a selfish thing. In fact, Jesus taught the exact opposite. Whenever you're thinking of your spiritual self, now we're going to define this, the ego self or the spiritual self, you are transcending the process of the human mind. This is the most unselfish thing anyone can offer the rest of mankind. When I lay down my life, I am giving this world the greatest gift I can possibly give. I'm living in this world as a conscious being. I'm forsaking my human ego mind. I'm still here. I'm not saying I'm going to leave the world. Well, I may leave. I don't know. Once I release my attachment to my human life, I'm allowing Spirit to orchestrate the interplay for me without my mind getting in the way. Hard job. It's very, very difficult. It's unfamiliar at first, definitely, to say the least. It's very, very unfamiliar to most of us. It's the most unselfish thing that you could possibly do for mankind, and it's the greatest gift you can give this world. Because, ultimately, we're all here to do the same thing. We're all here to awaken to the true spiritual self. We're here to come back to life. We're here to reconnect. Not just intellectually. When I said, imagine for a moment that God is all things. Okay, we can use our imagination. We can say, yes, I believe. I believe that I'm one with everyone. But on a day-to-day, when someone comes to me and insults me, I may forget in that moment. They may be awake. They may be asleep. Well, if they were awake, they wouldn't be insulting me. But anyway, the point being...
You perceive it as an insult, you're not awake.
You're not awake. There's a saying that says, we upset the harmony of creation just as much when we take offense as when we give it. When you respond to somebody insulting you, there's only one way that you can respond to somebody insulting you and upset the balance of things. And that's through judgment. You judged it. I judged it, I judged them, I judged whatever. Right? I've upset the apple cart, so to speak. I'm creating waves of energy by my response. Later on in here, I talk about reacting and interacting. The judgment is a reaction. It's a pre-programmed thought system that I'm holding. I programmed it. And along with everyone who's helped me program it, I got a program that I can go to that already knows somebody slaps the cheek, I'm going to hit him. Okay? That's reacting. Interacting, someone slaps his cheek and I'm looking at this and I don't know what's going on in this moment. Now I'm interacting. Don't know anything. I listen to Spirit. Spirit would tell me what to do. I don't go here anymore. Now that's a reprogramming of the human mind and cutting it off, right at the moment when it starts functioning. Very, very difficult for us to master at first. But like anything, you practice. Before you know it, it becomes who you are every moment. Takes practice. But anyway, where was I over here? When asked how he could abandon his wife and his child forever to seek enlightenment, the Buddha answered that it was because he loved mankind and wanted to relieve it of all pain and suffering. Again, same kind of conscious thinking. When we perceive something through a judgmental mind, we're looking at things in a dualistic way, good and evil. When you do, that very thought is fueling that illusion. It's adding more fuel to the fire, so to speak. It's going to keep it alive. It's almost like those Freddy Krueger movies. The more fear you put in, the bigger it gets. And then all of a sudden, you recognize the truth and you stop being afraid and it disappears. Wow, we're powerful creators. Jesus taught the same kind of love. Greater love has no man than this, that he laid down his life for his friends. We're not talking about in a war where someone jumps on a grenade. We're talking about while you're walking and talking on a day-to-day basis. We're not talking about giving up the body now. Don't give me, don't anyone think, oh, well, I'm going to go commit suicide, so I'm going to save the world. No, it doesn't work like that. What I'm talking about is becoming awake and aware. That's laying down the life. Moving from the ego mind. I'm sorry?
Be the example, live it.
Being
Walk
the example.
Walk, talk the talk.
You have to, yeah. I remember when I was first told to write this and teach this, and my first inclination was, oh wait, no, I'm not doing that. Are you kidding me? First of all, everyone's going to think I'm nuts. Second of all, I can't do it. And third of all, at that very moment, at the very, very beginning, I said, I don't want to give up my life. I don't want to give up my toys, my trinkets, my security, and everything. Not to say that everyone would have to be stripped to the bone like I went. I mean, we don't have to. There is nothing in the world that's a problem. The Bible also says it this way. Of its own self, all things are pure. They're only impure when you eat with an impure mind. So, in and of itself, there's nothing wrong with anything. But, give it a value relative to a judgmental, perceptual mind, you got a problem with whatever that is. You made it a problem. You, not the thing. The thing is fine. So everything comes down to, and it boils down to our beliefs, what we believe. The Bible also said, as you believe, so shall it be. Duh. Of course. You can't escape your own belief systems. You can change them, but you can't escape them. The truth of salvation. Many are convinced that what they believe in is absolute truth of Jesus. Many will use biblical quotes to support their position, even when those positions are clearly ego-based and from the mind of man. Each person must decide what level of truth is for him or her. That is what free will is all about. Those who wish to experience the joy of oneness, again, must look to the highest level of truth and settle for nothing less than ultimate reality. Let me read that one sentence again, because that's very, very important. Those who wish to experience the joy of oneness, okay, not the joy of progressing from one state to another. I'm better than you. I'm less than this one, but I'm better than that one. No, the joy of oneness would go beyond a judgmental mind. There are no degrees in oneness. There is no this one's better than that one, which is very, very interesting also, because when they asked Jesus, Now this is something good for Christians to kick around in their minds, because they all think they're going to be going to heaven. The ones who think that they're good enough to go anyway. They asked Jesus, no, you want to talk about an ego question. Which one of us is the best? You know, and he's got his guys around, you know, yeah, I'm better than that one. But, you know, but which one of us is the best? And how did Jesus respond? He says, of all of the men born of the flesh, there was none greater than John the Baptist. But even he is less than the least in heaven. Wait a minute. I just said in oneness, the highest level of truth in oneness, there is no degrees. So what is Jesus talking about heaven? How can there be degrees in heaven? Because the heaven he was talking about is not the same level that we're talking about here. It's a progression. That's why Jesus said, the heaven here shall pass away, the one above it shall pass away, and the one above it shall pass away, and la 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 la. So we go on and on and on and on. And you can keep evolving. You can do that. And trust me, I'm not here to tell anybody what to choose. You choose whatever you want. What I'm here to say is there's two ways home. There's the long way home, going through the steps, and then you're there already. You're there already before you think about it, if you accept without a judgmental mind. If you can transcend all of your limited thoughts and beliefs. Granted, that would be a bit of a job. Trust me, because I've been playing at it for a while, and I know how hard it is to maintain the level of consciousness where you're not reacting to the world. And just when you think you've mastered it, something comes into your life, get a phone call, hey Dad, they just arrested me. You know, I mean, it's very hard to stay out of a judgmental mind. In that moment, well, son, that's great. How can I help you? You know, it's like, yeah, if we're going to interact in the world, you deal with the moment without the judgment. That's real unconditional love. You deal with the moment, and it can be that you deal with it on a day-to-day, moment-by-moment basis, including with our family members. Granted, our family members are probably the last ones that we'll probably deal with in terms of releasing this world. You know, because they're the ones we have the strongest attachment to. When my son was born, I remember thinking, I'd lay my life down for him in a heartbeat. Wouldn't even think about it. I already knew I would do that. Well, you know what? I've shared with him since this awakening that, sorry, Michael, but I really have no idea what your journey is supposed to be. And I'm not going to be so arrogant as to know ahead of time what should or shouldn't be. Now, I may lay down my life for you, I may not. If Spirit tells me to step in front of that car, I'll do that. If Spirit says he's supposed to go, well, I honor and respect his spirit, and I've already shared with him the fact that I honor the relationship we've had as spiritual kin. And that comes and takes precedence over father-son. I just tried to share that with my mother, but my mother's she's at a stage with Alzheimer's, and part of it got through and part of it didn't. But anyway, that's how we're to have our relationships with our kin. And when we do, we recognize that somebody in Ethiopia is equal to anyone that we used to hold on this pedestal. All equal. And when you can do that, when you can hold all of humanity at that same point, and you can live that on a day-to-day, you've done the highest job you can do. You don't have to choose that job. You know, I mean, if a new shop opens up, somebody got to sweep the floor. You want to be the floor sweeper, you be that. You want to stay in this world, you stay here. But know this, if you wish to move yourself to the highest level, it's in your charge. It's up to you. And you don't have to wait. You don't have to be prepared to do this. You came in prepared. You came in perfect. Everyone was created perfect. No one was created less than the next guy in terms of spirit. Nobody. And Jesus wasn't any, spiritually Jesus, and this is why I lost, there was one guy who said, I'll never come into your place as long as you're here. Because he read one line in my book that said, Jesus was no more God than you are. That was it for him. He'll never come in here as long as I'm in here. So, okay, whatever. But the point is, that's true. God didn't create favorites. God didn't create special ones. God didn't create anyone less than you, and God didn't create anyone more than you. Those of you who wish to experience the joy of oneness again must look to the highest level of truth and settle for nothing less than ultimate reality. This is what in my brochure for the League of Love. To be or not to be. That's what I was really alluding to there. To be what? To be awakened and to be interacting in a world from the awakened state. Or not. Because ultimately there is only life or death. You may think that you are evolved and greater and more sophisticated in your knowledge than the next one about spirit, and I can move energies, and I can do healings, and I can do this, and I can do that. Oh, look at me. I'm so far along. But you know what? If you're not living here, everyone on this side is still lost. Doesn't matter whether you're channeling spirits on a day-to-day basis. Whoa, Aunt Millie came to me last night and told me blah, 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 blah. You know, whoopee. You're still locked in the system. Wake up over here. Everyone's equal.
It's not about look what I can do, it's about look who I'm becoming.
And you know what happens when you have that? You have everything. And you've got all that other stuff they've gotten and whatever.
And more.
Exactly.
And more.
Exactly.
Ah, absolutely. Amen. Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus.
Hallelujah.
Yeah.
Jesus.
And it goes.
Hot flash.
Yeah, it is getting warm. Shall you hit that fan?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Let's,
my estrogen will
let's,
appreciate that.
I'm going to turn it down one just so I don't know if you're going to get blown away here, but yeah, it's getting a little warm. In the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus asked for nothing less than total awareness. Wow. Thomas 2, Jesus said, "He who seeks, let him not seeking until he finds, and when he finds, he will be troubled." Now, this is steps that we go through, and yes, as we are moving from a limited view into a little bit greater view, we get troubled. I remember when I was in my early 20s. I got on a list, and I was getting underground publications telling me what's going on in the world and who's playing and who's pulling the strings and so on and so on and so on. And I remember reading about the Federal Reserve being a private corporation and the Club of Rome and how they were setting wars and stopping wars and doing and all this stuff. And I looked and I said, wow. And in that moment, my first thought was, I knew enough to be scared and not enough to do anything about it. That's where I was. But yeah, you know, at the beginning when you first start opening, you're very troubled. This world now, you see things you didn't see. Wow, wow, wow. I could do this and I should do that, blah, 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 blah. And yeah. So anyway, this is where Jesus is talking here. And when he is troubled, he will be amazed. Okay, so now we're looking at all this stuff, and I was amazed. Wow, look at what's going on in the world. Look, nobody knows this, and nobody knows that, and only this one knows that, and that. And I was amazed. I was amazed at all that stuff. I said, wow, amazing. And amazing was the level of ignorance that I was witnessing, not only in myself, but in all of the rest of the country, and probably the world. And then he says, and he will reign over all. He will reign over all. When you get to that point, when you first get there, you're troubled, then you're amazed, and then you let it be. You let it be what it is. It is what it is. Now, nothing When he says that you'll reign over all, doesn't mean you're going to control the world. I'm not going to go out there and overthrow these people that are running things. Let them run the thing. Who cares? I'm a spiritual being. I'm going home. This is not my home. I'm going home. And I'm going to live in this world from an awakened state. I reign over all. One who slapped that cheek is not going to get me. Doesn't matter anymore. So this is what Christ was really here to teach man. I'm not saying he was the only one, mind you, but many in this world have been brought up Christian, and so a lot of this is geared towards Christian. The truth is universal. Okay? First, let me clarify that. This is a universal truth that Christ taught. And if you get it, doesn't matter whether you call Christ Jesus, whether you call Christ this, whether you call God God, or whether you call God Allah, the universe, or the Great Spirit, doesn't matter. What matters is you recognize that life is that which exists beyond our judgmental minds, and you're a part of it. That's the most important point that we can possibly grab and hang on to. Because when you see that, it's universal, everywhere, through all teachings. And it doesn't belong to just one. It doesn't belong to just Christian. It doesn't belong to just Buddhist or Hindu or Muslim. It's universal. It doesn't belong to, it really should even have a label. Because the moment you give something a label, someone is going to use their perceptual mind and put a value on it, and it's now diluted and not in its pure state, and they're no longer there. They just lost it. Wow. See the problem we have with verbiage? The highest truth Jesus spoke of was non-judgment, unconditional love, where sin does not exist. Jesus stressed this state as the final objective for man and the way to eternal life. He alluded to the level of truth when he said, "You will know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." This is the truth he was talking about. That's the truth. The truth that only thing that stands in the way of your freedom is your own judgments. You see how that works? We can all be living here, we can all be having this experience, and we're connected to God, and we're feeling the love, we're feeling that universal oneness, and then someone comes in and does whatever, well, puts a gun to our head. You judge that moment. You're gone all over again. You've lost that freedom because you reacted with a judgmental mind. You gave it a meaning relative to the ego-human world. Don't go there, and you're free. And you see how we can vacillate back and forth? We see this is why Paul said, I die on a daily basis. Jesus had his moments also, and I talked about that, the fig tree, when he comes upon the fig tree, he wills it to wither away and die because there's no fruit when he's hungry. That's a human reaction. He had a human moment.
Right, and the thing is not to dwell on that.
Not to dwell on it.
It was what it was, okay, fine, let's move on.
Learn from it.
Yeah.
Learn from everything. Look at it, learn from it, and then let it go. You know, that's the whole thing. When you look at anything, don't hang on to that thing. Because the moment you hang on to that thing, you now have focused your attention on something that's going to keep you from this. Whatever it is, I don't care what it is. You want the whole? You've got to let everything go. And this is why Jesus said, you want to truly be my disciple? Here's all that's required. Simple. Forsake everything and everyone. All the stuff, all the people, including your mother, your father, your husband, your wife, your children, even yourself. Forsake all of that. Now you can truly be my disciple. Because he was talking about this level of consciousness. You can't have anything. I can't take this chair with me. Try. Just won't come. Nothing comes with us. And unfortunately, what we call the love of our family can become a major obstacle because we give special relationships more credence than that relationship. I would say this: if any one of us had a family member down in Haiti right now, and you knew that their house was blown away, and they're wallowing in mud and had no place to live, you'd find some way to help them. You'd do your best. That's my kin. That's my family. My son, my daughter, whatever. I gotta help them. But you're watching the news, some families wiped out, they're starving to death, they have nothing. Well, yeah, but that's not me. That's not my family. My family's here. Someone drops a bomb in America, someone does something over here. Let's just go. I remember hearing somebody say to me, well, let's just drop a bomb over in the Middle East and just kill them all and take all the oil. You know, as long as my family has food on the table and cheap gas and so on and so on. We all do this as humans. We have a tendency to prioritize and create special relationships that take precedence over everything else. Now, you think you can experience the fullness of God's unconditional love when you're focused on this? Can't be done. If you take this and elevate it and let it be part of that, now you can. Big difference in the way we live. Huge. So most people didn't quite get the fullness of what Jesus was teaching. Being a little facetious here because they didn't get hardly anything. You know. If you can learn to see with spiritual eyes as opposed to interpreting every word with your limited mind, this truth becomes indisputable. It is at this time that you will awaken from the dream containing the illusion of the death experience. Wow. Once this is accomplished, you will lose all attachment to form you previously believed was life. And that is essential for people to remember. What we call life, I say this, I almost called this book The Death Experience. Because as I see life, the human existence is the death experience. Now, tell that to the average person. Now, I was going to use it as a title. I said, well, they probably wouldn't grab the magnitude of it just from the title. They probably wouldn't pick it up. Just as they're not picking up Prophet or Madman. But I haven't really promoted it and got it out there yet either. But anyway, this truth is truth, whether it's there or here or whoever hears it. If one person.
That book was already written anyway.
It's written. Yeah, it's there. You know, it's there, and it's going to take on a life of its own when I get out of the way. Once this is accomplished, you will lose all attachment to the form you previously believed was life. In that moment, you will be transformed into the state Jesus was referring to when he spoke of overcoming death. This is the true meaning of becoming reborn. Now, let's look at becoming reborn. Just a mere statement. Becoming reborn. Well, reborn to what? The Bible, let's go back to the beginning of the Bible. The Bible talks about life. Life. Remember the tree of life in the Garden of Eden? Then there's the tree of death. Tree of good and evil. This was the tree of death talked about. According to our story, Adam and Eve chose to look at things in a dualistic nature and died. According to the story, those that followed were going to have the same death experience. Jesus comes along and says, look, let me take you back to life. You want to become reborn? Well, reborn is not really, again, language is a problem, because in reality, life is eternal, and life always is. Death is nothing more than an absence of awareness.
Life is remembering.
Well, I'd say even more than remembering, because remembering would be indicative of a linear experience. Okay? I would say this, just awareness. Life is awareness. You're aware. Because life is now. And because it's now, it's beyond linear. As human beings, we are evolving. As human beings, as egos are evolving. Some. Some egos are not evolving, but some egos are evolving. Okay? But if you look, that linear track is still part of a death experience. Life goes beyond that. Life just is. Rumi said this. Rumi said, the eye goes blind when it only wants to see why. So in other words, when we are viewing life, when we are awake and aware, look at it, question it, you're back to death. You're back to the death experience. Because you're judging it. You're putting a value to it. Life is, put a value to it, you've lost it. Wow. Most of us haven't been taught this, unfortunately. And I think my page turned here. Where am I?
At the bottom.
At the bottom.
In italics there.
Oh, okay, yeah.
315.
I know your words. You are neither cold nor hot. Would that you were cold or hot. So because you are lukewarm and neither cold nor hot, I will spew you out of my mouth. For you say, I am rich, I have prospered, and I need nothing, not knowing that you are wretched, pitiable, poor, blind, and naked. Therefore I counsel you to buy from me gold refined by fire, that you may be rich, and white garments to clothe you, and to keep the shame of your nakedness from being seen, and salve to anoint the eyes that you may see. Those whom I love, I reprove and chasten. So be zealous and repent. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come to him and eat with him, and he with me. He who conquers, I will grant him to sit with me on the throne, as I myself conquered and sat with my Father on his throne. This is out of Revelations.
You mean he conquered his ego?
Conquered his ego. Exactly what Jesus was talking about. Yeah. And Jesus was talking about those people who are not participating. When he said, you're not cold, you're not hot. Most Americans that I'm familiar with have pretty much an apathetic attitude towards the world. We are more consumed with our own little circle. And so whatever happens over there, okay. Whatever happens over there, okay. But don't let it happen in my neighborhood. You know? Oh, there's a hurricane coming. Well, as long as it's not coming here, let it go there. Let it go there, you know.
Yeah.
And then we open that circle a little bit to include our nation, our neighborhood, or our state, and then our nation, you know, the North against the South, and then once you get past that, then it's the United States against something else. And so, you know, we do this. And when we look at things this way, as I say, most people will split it all up, and then we become apathetic to everything else outside of us. We're not hot, we're not cold. Yeah, so that happened, so that happened, so that happened. It's not affecting me. Well, Jesus was basically calling mankind to participate on a day-to-day, moment-by-moment, to wake up. Now, as a Christian, I wasn't really taught this to this degree. Mind you, I was raised Catholic. But many Christians are not taught to truly live in a conscious state. It's not what they're teaching us. Okay? Jesus was teaching this. Our Creator. Think about it for a moment. You think our Creator didn't weave into the fabric of creation the will to share on a more loving level? That's the core of creation, is love. And that love is to be expanded until you've taken the whole as your family, so to speak. Jesus called for that to happen. Remember what Jesus said in the commandments he said? Love your neighbor as yourself. Do good to those who harm you. That was what we were being called to live. Now, we can reject that and say, no, I'm busy. I don't want to hear it. So he says, look, because you're lukewarm and you're not participating, when you leave that body and you come to me, I'm going to spit you out of my mouth. I'm not going to say I knew you. Now again, remember this. It wasn't meant to be a judgment. Jesus will never judge you. It was really here to bring a point across that you're supposed to participate. Okay? And you will give account of your thoughts, you will give account of your actions, because that's all you experience is your thoughts and your actions. Any of us. We are creating our experiences as we go along and make the choices we're making. We can do it with judgment in our heart, or we can release the judgment. We can look at it through our dualistic mind of man, which is based on fear.
Which is what organized religion uses to
Which is-
control us. And if you are aware, you cannot be controlled.
Exactly. Exactly right. Yeah, organized religion is constantly using that. They use fear. They use fear to try to keep you right there.
Exactly. And if you are an aware individual, you will see all of that, and now you are no longer under their control.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You're free.
And that doesn't tithe.
Well, Jesus said, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. That's the truth he was talking about. You're not under anyone's control. No one has power over you. No one is an intermediary between you and God. You have a direct relationship. When Jesus said, I and the Father are one, so are you. So are you. So are you. Everyone is equally a part of all that is. All right? Everyone is one with the Father. Now, not everyone is awake and aware of their relationship to the Father. Jesus came here and taught from that level. It's a whole different picture than what most people are living, that's true. But he wasn't special. He was like everyone else. By the term conquer, Jesus meant the overcoming of your ego or judgmental mind. That's what he said. I came into the world and conquered it. He overcame his judgmental ego mind. And when they say Jesus was the man without sin, I look at that and I say, why would you ever teach that Jesus was the man without sin if you want to teach the truth about creation and the reality and the mechanics and how it works? It would be far greater, it would be much, much more advantageous for people to recognize that Jesus had an ego-thinking mind that he had to overcome. Now he's a perfect example. He came in, he dealt with this world, and he conquered it. And if he did and he wasn't special, why can't you? You know why you can't? I'll tell you why you can't. Anybody know why you can't? Because you choose not to. Not because you're incapable, but because you're choosing not to. And you choose not to primarily because you've been educated to believe you can't. You're not good enough. You're not special. I remember somebody saying to me at one time, well, yeah, Jesus was special. He was the Son of God. I can't be like Jesus. And I say, wait a minute, what do you mean you can't be? Why can't you be like Jesus? You know why? Because I have an agenda. I'm going to do this with my life, this with my life. I'm going to have this when I'm done. I want this toy. I want that toy. I want this amount of security. I paint this picture. That's my life. Well, if I follow Jesus' example, I may not get this.
Yikes.
You know, guess what? I can't do that. On that note, we just had 8 o'clock, and and so we just came to the conclusion that the only thing that gets in the way of our being is our attachment to our particular pictures, whatever they are. I'm not going to say what form is going to be more detrimental than the other form, but whatever you're holding as a picture is the only thing that's going to remain as an obstacle to your being.
And you're the artist of your own picture.
And you're the artist. I think it was Gibran who said that the veil has to be removed with the same hands that created it, something to that effect. We create our own veils. We create our own veils by our beliefs. Hold them. That veil is so thick, it's impossible for anyone to remove it. And no one and nothing in the universe or in all of creation can come here and remove your veil. No one. But you can be the example for the next one to emulate so that they can remove their own. Be what you want to be. Gandhi said, you must be the change you would wish to see in the world, because in the now moment, you can't be experiencing anything other than that which you are holding on to as your truth. I choose life, love, and let spirit play it out. And anyone who wants to participate and join the League of Love, I welcome anyone and everyone, and we're going to invite the whole world to join. What they do, hey, it's up to them.
Bravo.
Bravo. So. And next week we're going to pick up where we left off, and we're going to get into judgment.
Yeah.
Hey.
I like that.
You love judgment? Yeah, right. I think we're all pretty good at that one. Probably not going to have to talk too much about judgment, I think. But there we are. But anyone who wants to hang out and just jibber jabber, please feel free. But I know some of us have to leave. We've got obligations, and that's fine. That's why I like to cut it off at 8 o'clock, because I hate when somebody says we're going to finish something at a certain time. I remember I had a group one time, and I just used to go on and on and on. And one night I kept it an hour and a half later without realizing. I keep a clock now. I didn't have one before. And after a while, the next week they said, "Well, you know what? I had so many things to do, but I felt I didn't want to interrupt you, so I just stayed." I said, "Well, I'm not going to do that anymore. You know, I'm going to cut it off at the time, and we can always hang out afterwards if you want to."
Thank you for that.
Namaste. Thank you.
Bye next week.
And Scott.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you so much.
Oh,
I had
thank
a wonderful
you.
time.
Thank you.
Have a great rest of the week.
Well, thank you. You also.
Have a good one.
Right.
Have a lovely week. Mr. John, I won't see you Monday, because actually I'm going to be over
How do you see my
Blessings.
only 43
Libby
weeks
and I are
and we've
going to be
covered-
doing the secret healing meditation over
I don't know how
there,
many
which is really
pages.
fun, so we'll get to share with you.
58.
Folks that can do it for themselves.
At least tonight.
Oh, we're rocking now. We're on a roll.
Hey,
Yeah.
you're pretty much non-stop.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I feel like it's time to move through the rest of this, because I got a sneaking suspicion that
Really hard.
I can't take another year or so.
I went to one, and
And you guys, I mean, once you get to a certain point, the foundation is already laid. And once you get that, it's something.
Once you get awake, you're fine.
Yeah, once you get awake, you're fine. And so, yeah, exactly. So we're pretty much getting to that point here where the premise of what we're doing is getting grounded, and then Mickey's gonna teach.
Yeah.
I think anybody can teach.
He's not.
I think anybody can teach.
Everyone, and we're all, one of the things that the Course in Miracles talks about is we're all teachers and we're all students. And it's true. This is what creation is. Creation is an experience of interchange. And we're demonstrating to each other. And we're teaching each other what we believe. Simple. I believe that the whole world's no. Yeah, we're going to demonstrate either what we believe in life or we believe in death. We believe in the death experience, and I believe that I'm going to become a little bit better tomorrow. Or not. Maybe I believe I'm going to take the world over. Yeah, that's the ticket. I'll take over a small country. Yeah.
Start with